Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavatir Naishtiki Shrinvatam Swakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantasto Hyabadrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we're continuing with our reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're in the first canto, Creation, chapter 13, Dhritarashtra quits home, and we're coming to the end of this chapter that we've been with for so long. We're on verse 57 now. Sava Adyantanad Rajan Paratara Panchame Hani Kalevaram Hasyati Swam Tacha Bhasmi Bhavishyati Sava Adyantanad Rajan Paratara Panchame Hani Kalevaram Hasyati Swam Tacha Bhasmi Bhavishyati Sava Adyatanadarajan Paratara Panchame Hani Kalevaram Hasyati Swam Tacha Bhasmi Bhavishyati. Anyone would like to read? Yes.
Sava Adyatanadarajan Parata Panchame Hani Kalevaram Hasati Swam Tacha Bhasmi Bhavishyati.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Savadhyatnadarajan Parata Panchame Hani Kalevaram Hashyati Swam Tacha Bhashmi Bhavishyati. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Sava Adhyatana Parata Panchame Hani Kalevaram Hasyati Swam Tacha Bhashmi Bhavishyati. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Jai Sri Prabhupada ki Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, 13, chapter 57, verse. Hare Krishna. Sava Adyantana Rajan Parataha Panchame Hani Kalevaram Hasyati Swaha Swam Tacha Bhasmi Bhavishyat. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Saha, he, wa, in all probability, adya, today, tanat, from, rajan, O king, paratara, ahead, panchame, on the fifth, ahani, day, kalivaram, body, hasyati, shall quit, swam, his own, tat, that, cha, also, bhasmi, ashes, bhavishyati, will turn into. The translation, the purport, are given by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O King, he will quit his body, most probably on the fifth day from today, and his body will turn to ashes. Purport. Narada Muni's prophecy prohibited Yudhishthir Maharaj from going to the place where his uncle was staying, because even after quitting the body by his own mystic power, Dhritarashtra would not be in need of any funeral ceremony. Narada Muni indicated that his body by itself would burn to ashes. The perfection of the yoga system is attained by such mystic power. The yogi is able to quit his body by his own choice of time and can attain any planet he desires by turning the present body into ashes by self-made fire. Sava adyatana drajan paratara panchamehani kalivaram hasyati swam tacha bhashmi bhavishyati. O king, he will quit his body, most probably on the 5th day from today, and his body will turn to ashes. Katanchane smrite yasmin dushkaram sukaram bhavet vismrite vaparitam syad Shri Chaitanyam namamitam. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande Shri Guru dinataranam. Things that are very difficult to do become easy to execute if one somehow or other simply remembers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But if one does not remember him, even easy things become very difficult. To this Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I offer my respectful obeisances. By the mercy of a spiritual master, even a lame man can cross mountains and a mute man can speak eloquently. I offer him my respectful obeisances. The difficult thing to do is to have an opportunity to speak with the Vaishnavas and to please them by one's words. But by the mercy of the spiritual master, these things are possible. First, I want to wish everyone a happy Kartik. We're now on the 4th or 5th day. I hope everyone's vrat is deep in their heart and that you're finding renewal in this time. Narada Muni shared a prophecy with Yudhishthira Maharaj. It said that the pure devotees, like Narada Muni and Mahamuni Vedavyas, are Trikala Vid. They can see all 3 phases of time, past, present, and future. Srila Vedavyas wrote this Bhagavatam in a very prophetic manner. Before he even shared it with his son, before his son spoke to the assembly where Parikshit Maharaj was, and before the sages of Naimisharanya had gathered in a mystic vision, Vyasadeva saw the Bhagavatam. Similarly, Narada Muni here can see what is going to happen to Dhritarashtra. And he's advising Yudhishthira Maharaj to not bother, both for the purpose of distracting Dhritarashtra Maharaj in these final moments, but also to dissuade him from his tendency to be charitable and helpful to Dhritarashtra, because he won't need it, as his body will be turned to ashes. Srila Prabhupada explains that this type of perfection is afforded to one who is practicing mystic yoga. And I was just speaking yesterday that about mystic perfections and about allegedly a devotee had perceived a mystic feat of Srila Prabhupada's. And when I woke up today, I was thinking about it again. Yesterday, on top of hearing this claim that Srila Prabhupada had demonstrated a mystic power, I also was thinking on the topic of unconditional love. And we usually hear about the word conditioned in the Western world by hearing about conditional love and air conditioning. But we mostly use the word habituated. Oh, a person's, I have a filthy habit. I wake up very late, or I have a terrible habit of, picking my nose when I'm nervous, or pulling out a hair, or cursing when I'm in traffic. So we speak about habits, but the purport of conditioning and habit is the same. Nevertheless, even if we haven't heard about the Vedic literatures or about this kind of knowledge that lets somebody know that there is a state of being that is beyond condition, we still have aspirations for unconditional love. For both as definitely as being the receivers of it, and also hopefully sometimes because we wish to be the givers of it. As the receivers, it makes sense that we would want unconditional love. And this all ties back to this. It makes sense that we would want to receive unconditional love because to the degree that we are aware of ourselves, we will also be painfully aware of our shortcomings. And in that frame of mind, we can become frightful that if a person is aware of our shortcomings, that our affection, the affection that we're given, will be based on whether or not we can be flawless or not, or whether or not we can execute some activity perfectly or well. So we desire to receive affection all the time because regardless of whether or not we are manifesting sattva-gun or rajagun or tamagun, or conducting an activity well or conducting an activity improperly, we're still the same conscious being. We're still the same observer that at the end of all of our pursuits, in the very background of what we're looking for, is exchange of emotion. Krishna admits that all of us are following his path. We're just doing it in different ways. Karma yoga is also following the path of trying to get something from the world. It's trying to get some taste. We know that money doesn't buy happiness, but it buys access to things that facilitate our connection with a certain type of mood. We're all after Krishna's opulences. We want money so that we can buy a car, so that we can seem like we have Aishwarya, so we can be appreciated by others. Or we like to take cold showers so we can show off our vairagya, our renunciation. Or we study a lot, or we try to learn about business or internet design or user experience, so that we can create something that people are like, wow, I just could not think of that, because we want to show off our buddhi. Or we try to look beautiful just so that we can reflect something of Krishna, because deep down we just know those opulences of Krishna are rather, Krishna is the supreme attractive being. And we know that if there's any chance of our being attractable or attractive to others, we will have to avail ourselves of these opulences of Krishna in some way. What is unfortunate for us is that we're taking the long way around. These opulences are naturally manifest in our spiritual form, provided we are situated in our original position of serving Krishna. What we're trying to do right now is manifest opulences the long way around. We're trying to do everything. We're trying to acquire all of those opulences without serving Krishna directly. And it's such a cumbersome, impossible job. It's impossible to juggle it because those things only exist and are really only necessary for Krishna. It's only necessary to be attractive so that Krishna can look at you. And it's only worth being intelligent so you can say something that surprises Krishna. It's only worth having opulence so that you can give something to him. And it's only worth being renowned so that you can pretend to be disinterested in him and to inspire his attention. So it's such a cumbersome job that we're doing because we're really trying to do the impossible. And it's just like its name says, not possible. So that's how we try to receive unconditional love. But we also try to give it sometimes because, well, perhaps we realize that maybe I'll have access to something that's not conditioned if I just uncondition myself to give. And we can get into that rabbit hole of putting our own needs aside and just ignoring the fact that we are in a world where we are conditioned. So it can create a real headache. And the fact of the matter is that unconditional love exists between the Anu Atma and the Vibhu Atma exclusively. To the degree that a part and parcel of Krishna, like you and I, recognizes that our sole duty is to love Krishna, to that degree, we can serve others unconditionally as an extension of our service to Krishna. A way to look at it is a tree can give fruits unlimitedly, provided that its roots are being watered. So we can be of use to the world, provided that we are trying to be of use to Krishna. And in that sense, we can give the love that, or we can serve Krishna by delivering the love that he has for others, through our acts of service. And why I mention this is because Srila Prabhupada, I was thinking, gave us such a wonderful opportunity to love him by not giving us conditions with which to love him. He didn't tell us who he was in the spiritual world, for example, so that we could adore him because of who he is related to Krishna in the spiritual world. The only thing that he said time and time again was that who he was a servant of his spiritual master. So he localized us in this world. He didn't bring our attention to Goloka Vrindavan directly by putting himself in there next to Krishna. He put himself in a parampara after 36, 40 acharyas listed underneath the name of his divine grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, which exists after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he put himself at the lowest point in the material world, which is such a glorious thing for us because it connects us to such a rich tradition of the most beautiful poetry that exists in this world, of of a sampradaya that's full of so much outpouring of love of Krishna in so many commentaries, of so many special realizations given by the devotees, of what's so special about Sri Sri Radha and Krishna? What's so special about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement? So Srila Prabhupada was, as a pure devotee, was, we understand from literature, capable of performing mystic feats. And it's something to appreciate about him that he did not try to attract us to him independently by his own display of mystic power, but he expanded his mystic power through his disciples. Prapti, for example, is the mystic perfection by which one can acquire things that are very far. When Srila Prabhupada wanted to open a temple in London, he sent Shamasundar and Janaki and Malati and Jamuna and Mukunda and Jamuna, Janaki, Malati, Shamasundar, Guru Das, and Mukunda Prabhus. And he was commenting in his class on Nectar of Devotion in Vrindavan that his Guru Maharaj had sent two sannyasis to London. And in his humble spiritual pride, he said, they could not do it, but these grihastas have done it. Not my disciples have done it, these grihastas have done it. So never mind, and he says, never mind your position, you serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that was something that I was appreciating about Srila Prabhupada today. We hear so many people attracting us to them. I can help you get $1 million because I've done it myself. Or, I've heard some so-called gurus on YouTube say, I know I will not come back. I know this is my last life. Or I know who I was in my previous life. Or I can tell you who you are in the spiritual world. Prabhupada dedicated his whole life in telling us who Krishna is, and went so far as to say, well, I won't quote it because I haven't read the quote personally, and I'm trying to do a better job of just saying what Prabhupada has said that I've heard or seen him say. But Prabhupada did say that the Vaishnava is not concerned with going to Goloka Vrindavan directly. He is thinking, let Krishna enjoy with the gopis there. Let me engage in his service here. So that is another way of Prabhupada not saying, I will go to Goloka after this, but rather the Vaishnava, not even including himself as a Vaishnava, but saying this is how a Vaishnava should behave. This is what stuck out to me about Srila Prabhupada's mention of the perfection of yoga system, that Prabhupada gave so much and he didn't interject himself in that giving or remind us that he was the one that was giving. And we forget that Prabhupada, though he was a pure spiritual being, he was living in a body that had needs. He was living in a body that had a mind, pure as it is, or with a body dedicated to Krishna as it was a body that had needs, and he didn't interject those needs between his giving. He would make meals for the devotees on his own and clean afterwards in the very beginning of the movement. And it wasn't until someone asked how they could help that Prabhupada instructed them on how. There was so much that that anyone else could have done differently. Well, I'm from Vrindavan, by the way. I'm from, my Guru Maharaj is a very big deal, by the way. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is God, and I am his living representative, by the way. The Guru should be served, by the way. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. There's so many things that Prabhupada or anyone else could have done differently to interject their own personality or their own identity. But we even hear from Govinda Dasi how it was that we called him Prabhupada. We were calling him Swamiji until um, Gaur Sundar said that he wanted to call Govinda Govindaji, and Prabhupada said, well, Govindaji it's a third class form of address. And she realized, well, but we're calling you Swamiji. So what is a better form of address? And Prabhupada said it's not important. And Govindaji said, oh no, it's very important. What is the best way? And he said, well, there's Guru Maharaj or Guru Dev or Srila Prabhupada. And she said, well, those are three. Which one is the best? And he thought, and who knows what it was that he thought in that moment in his transcendental heart. But he said Srila Prabhupada is best. And from that day forward, everyone called him Srila Prabhupada. So he says here that the yogi is able to quit his body by his own choice of time and can attain any planet he desires. I heard once a devotee saying that, Vaishnavas are not too concerned with is it Jyotish? The study of astrology. If there's anyone in the chat that would like to correct me if I'm wrong, but the study of astrology and the influence of the planetary systems. He said that a Vaishnava is not too interested with that because a Vaishnava is always being directed by the influence of Goloka Vrindavan, the supreme planet. And the time that is affecting the devotee is remembrance of when to wake up, when to chant Hare Krishna, when to read Bhagavatam, when to read Bhagavad Gita, and for very fortunate devotees that have dedicated their lives to such a practice, the eightfold activities of Sri Sri Radha and Govinda every day. And so Prabhupada says the yogi, and we know that the greatest yogi is Mad Gatanantaratmana, the devotee that Mad Gatananta, who has made Krishna the goal of his life. That is the greatest yogi. That is the person who is most expert at yoga, at connection. So who understands the mysticism of what his own choice means, given that a devotee does not desire anything different than Krishna? A pure devotee is leaving when Krishna is ready to take him. I remember during COVID when His Holiness Bhakti Charaswami went to the ICU, and I will never forget this, that he said there was controversy regarding what the survivability was of a devotee that went on a ventilator. And he desired not to go on a ventilator. He put out a statement. And shortly after, he put out another statement. And he said that the purport of the statement was that he had conferred with God brothers, well-wishers, and disciples, and so many devotees desired his well-being, and they, driven by a desire to keep him on this planet, driven by the best intelligence they had of how to help him and serve him, they suggested that he be put on a ventilator. And he said, and I'll always remember that because it pleases the Vaishnavas, I will follow, their guidance. So a Vaishnava is like that. And we are all very lucky to have an example of devotees like this, to see the mystic potency of Prabhupada, to be able to turn anyone into a devotee, anyone that reads um, his ecstatic symptoms. Something, and I'll end on this, something that just came to mind is Amarendra Prabhu describes that this Srimad Bhagavatam he reminds us that it was written by Srila Prabhupada living in Radha Damodar and before. And he describes the bhajan of Srila Prabhupada, how he would chant and how he would take meal once a day and how he would chant all day. And that this Bhagavatam was the outpouring of his devotional ecstasies because he didn't know if he would finish it. And so he tried to put everything here. So what we're reading here is Prabhupada revealing his mind in confidence. He doesn't know who he's speaking to. He doesn't know who he's speaking to, but he's saying he's like he's just singing. He's just singing to the walls, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada said. You know, even if there is no one, you should preach to the walls. He's talking to his room. He's talking to the to the piece of paper. He's talking to his Guru Maharaj. He's talking to anyone that's around, and look at how much love he's giving to somebody that he doesn't know exactly who they are. And yeah. So those are some things that came to mind. I'm so grateful for your kind attention, for the opportunity of serving this way. If there's any corrections to what I said, please share them now. Um, thank you so much for your kind attention. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for speaking on this verse today. I hope you are well. So, any comments, reflections, questions? Please share.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji and Pranam. Krishna Prabhupada. Very beautiful lesson. I like the points that you highlighted, from the mystic uh, yogic point of view. Like currently in the current day and age, a lot of people have attraction to these kind of things, even though it's the perfection through that path is practically impossible. But even if somebody shows something remotely close to it or fakes it, just people get completely attracted to it. And you highlighted how Srila Prabhupada, as a pure devotee, eternal servant of Krishna, he, without having to show any of these kind of aspects, he attracted the entire world. So that was very, very beautiful point. Um, yeah, you mentioned several points in the same line. So thank you very much. That's very beautiful.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for that reflection. You highlighted something very important, and yes, it's like Prabhupada's protected us from having a relationship with him for the right reasons. It's like he really didn't want to cheat us. He really wanted to give us the opportunity to reciprocate with somebody by exchanging service and not by exchanging admiration or false attraction. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you for calling attention to it.
Thank you for
Very well.
Any other comments? Thank you, Danaraja Prabhu, for taking your valuable time to speak on Bhagavatam and pointing out interesting perspectives of the position of devotees and how they address the process of leaving the body. So I'm just amazed at the potency of Shivadur-ji, that he could influence somebody with such strong attachment. The fear of death is usually due to fear of losing attachments in one's life, attachment to family or objects, etc. And in a way, our material life is we survive and work based on these attachments, like attachment for money may prompt somebody to take a particular career, or attachment to family may take somebody, to do X, Y, Z. And sometimes attachments to Krishna and Guru and Sadhu Shastra are great, and maybe some are not so good. But I think death is a kind of a focal point where these attachments start manifesting. Because when I see this in my patients, when you cannot do the things that you normally do, like, for example, work, then the attachments, start manifesting what one wants, what one's mind is drawn to. When we're externally busy, like in day-to-day course, that doesn't happen.
Mm.
We get a simple sense of that when we're chanting japa.
Mm.
Our attachments start popping up actively. And so death is, I think, from my contemplation, seeing this in my work life as well as my family's life, is the process of fear because of losing something, losing what? Our attachment. So, we know the verses in chapter 8 talk about bhav, and how that bhav is a consciousness, a stream of consciousness. And it's dependent on what our consciousness was during this lifetime. And so somehow the process of Krishna consciousness is to bring our bhav into the right focal point, so one can leave one's body in a peaceful way. I really liked what Braj Mohan Prabhu said last week about, this, a question that came up in our yatra by the devotees, because we were up in the Haridwar area and visited the Sapta Rishi location and etc. But Tirthashta went, was that why are we as devotees in a place that is known for tapasya, basically? You see all these stories about great devotees going to the north.
Mm.
And Braj Mohan Prabhuji very nicely pointed out that kings and influential people, like a lot of these great devotees that are mentioned in our Shastra, are very powerful, controlling personalities. They oversee a kingdom. So this sense of controllership is so great, and ownership of, what one possesses so great, that by leaving it behind, they're leaving behind their controllership attitude or mentality and surrendering themselves to a different process. I thought that's wonderful, and how Vidurji could influence Dhritarashtra to do that, understanding that Dhritarashtra was going to, Krishna Chakravarti Thakur says in this chapter that Dhritarashtra does not achieve the spiritual world because of his offenses, obviously. But when we think about it, for the offenses, the karmic reaction for those offenses is basically to go to hellish planets. And Vidurji, being such an expert spiritual master, described an Astanga yoga process, so he could at least atone for those sinful activities and go to a place of punya, not necessarily a place of love. So this chapter just, to me, highlights the power of somebody who is so surrendered to Bhagavan that he can even take on the strong activities of someone he loves and somehow refocus them in a positive way. So those are just my thoughts on reading this, verse. And we've been reading this chapter for a while. And it's interesting to contemplate why this chapter came along, because Parikshit Maharaj had to do that too. So, but I like your unique approach to answering. Your mind works in very magical ways in connecting subtle, sublime teachings. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
That's such a kind thing to say, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you for sharing those realizations and for glorifying Sri Vidura that way. It certainly is a sign of his compassion and the potency of what he has to say. I was reminded of the verse in the Gita that only by tasting something superior can a person let go of something inferior. So what is the taste that Vidura Maharaj just communicated to Dhritarashtra by his instruction that was more potent than, like you said, the expression of his controlling nature and over the dominion of the world as it was. That's very sobering. And it's very sobering and a cause for appreciation that we get to hear also what Vidura said.
Yeah, I think it's interesting about Sri Rupa Goswami states that Guru Padasharaya is the most important step in the process of developing Uttama Bhakti. And essentially Vidurji is acting like his guru. And when you think about it, when we talked about this in some of the last time discussion this Friday, and why is that the case? Because the guru is taking somebody who, for anadi, beginningless time, has been in avidya, and avidya means to not recognize the presence of Krishna, Bhagwan, or relationship with Sri Krishna Bhagwan. So a guru takes somebody like that, and by one taking shelter basically means Sridhar Maharaj said that Guru Padashraya means literally taking shelter, but taking shelter means surrendering to the Guru. And to surrender to a Guru means to follow a different process than we have been doing for anadi. So it's impressive how Vidurji was able to take somebody who was so, even in Krishna's presence, so, his face was turned so far away from Krishna that he could do this. I mean, I think that's amazing. As devotees, you go out in book distribution and having programs, and one may say X, Y, Z, but I think, to turn somebody who's totally against spiritual life into spiritual life is, like Srila Prabhupada or Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj says, it takes gallons and gallons of blood. But I think it takes gallons and gallons of surrender to actually do the process. Good.
You said gallons and gallons of blood to surrender to the Guru, you said?
Yeah, I said that's what it really takes. Because, I mean, Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj just said it takes gallons and gallons of blood to help somebody go into devotional life. But it actually takes that because, that's the guru-disciple relationship. But,
Yeah.
it's one thing to get initiated, it's another thing to take Guru Padashraya.
Beautiful.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm so grateful for Kartik Mas. And yeah, I'm doing very nicely. Thank you.
You're keeping up your devotional poetry?
Yes, I have some projects that I'm working on.
Very nice.
Yes.
Do you read that book? Do you read the book Padyavali?
I haven't read it yet. But I have it. I have it. With your blessings, I'll be able to continue this devotional poetry and hopefully put something together for the pleasure of all the Vaishnavas.
Nice. Thank you. Vancha kalpa trivyacha kripa. Thank you so much, Danaraja Prabhu. Thank you,
Thank you
dear.
so much.
So I think we'll end at this point, Danaraja Prabhu.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Narottam Vilas Prabhu, for doing this service in spite of your new addition to your family. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you. I will declare Prabhu now.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.